So now that we have the AC and heater system plumbed with our Pure Stealth hose kit, we're going to move on to the power steering system. So conversing with Brian over the phone and looking at some pictures, I was able to kind of determine what he needed in order to plumb the power steering system on this car. Again, this is a Locar LS Classic LS engine. It includes a Type 2 pump. The reservoir is actually remotely mounted above the pump behind the alternator. And I know that because it's a Type 2 pump, it's a 16 millimeter thread that goes into the pump. And then we know that this is a Mayville rack on the Roadster Shop chassis. So we were able to determine what the fittings need to be for the pressure and return off of the rack. So I'll explain a little bit about how our part numbers work. So again, this part number begins with the letter X. That indicates that it's a Pure Stealth part. The next numbers are 11, which indicate to me that it's a power steering part. The next series of numbers, this is a X11 180 90-14. So the 180 tells me that this application needs straight hose ends at the rack and pinion. We always start with the rack or the box. In this case, we needed 180 degree or straight fittings on the rack. The second number being a 90 tells me that on the pressure line off of the pump, we need a 90 degree hose end. The last thing I had Brian do was measure for me between the pressure port on the pump and the pressure port on the rack, and we determined that a 14-inch hose would meet that requirement for us. So the return hose is going to be plenty long. We can cut it to length. I'll open up the kit. Again, this is an X11 180 90-14. Again, the 14 tells us that the pressure hose is 14 inches long. So in the box, we'll see what all is included. So this is the return hose. This is longer than 14 inches. It's designed to be cut to length. It includes a finisher clamp for the pump end. So we'll get to that a little bit. It's got a 180 degree or a straight fitting on the rack side. We'll set that aside. The pressure hose is this fellow right here. I'll set this box up here so we can go through the parts that are in the box. This is the pressure hose, 180, 90. So the 180 degree fitting is going to go on the rack. The 90 degree fitting is going to go on the pump itself. All of our fittings, whether they're 45 or 90 degrees, are swivel. So we can turn this fitting in any direction that we need it to be. The straight fitting, obviously, that's not an issue. We can tighten that up and have the upper fitting pointed in the correct direction. But if we miss it a little bit, we can always swivel that upper fitting. If you buy a 90-90 kit, for example, it would have a 90 degree on the rack, 90 degree on the pump, and both of those ends would be swivel fittings. So that takes clocking out of the equation. You can clock the fitting as you're installing it. Other pieces that we needed for this installation were adapters for the rack and pinion. And because we know it's a Mayville rack, it has a 9/16 pressure thread. So the pressure port is tapped 9/16, and there's our Pure Stealth adapter for the pressure port. The return port is 5/8 thread. So here's our adapter for the 5/8 port on the rack and pinion. With this particular setup, it's a little tight between the back side of the pulley and the pressure port on the pump. So we felt like it would be best to install a banjo fitting. So this is one of our Pure Stealth banjo fittings, available also on our website. This has the 16 millimeter bolt, banjo bolt, 2 crush washers, and then a 6AN banjo. So this assembly is all available through Pure Choice. We offer it in normal steel, zinc coated. This particular one has our Pure Stealth coating on it. So this is the very same thing that we offer every day in steel, but it's got our Pure Stealth coating. So this guy's going to screw into the top of the pressure valve on our pump. It's going to give us a immediate 90 degree turn away from that pump. And then our 90 degree swivel fitting for our power steering hose will attach to that. LS Classic power steering reservoir, this fellow right here, has a threaded port, and it's very difficult to see, but it's underneath of the alternator. There's a 1/4-inch pipe thread port. And so on that port, we're going to thread in a 1/4-inch pipe thread by 6AN Pure Stealth adapter. So this little fella right here will screw into the return port on the reservoir. We've brought along a Pure Stealth 6AN 90-degree push-on fitting that we will install on that reservoir. So it'll look just like this coming out of our reservoir. We'll take that return hose, we'll attach it to the rack and pinion, we'll bring it up, we'll cut it to length. That hose will slip over those barbs, and the finisher clamp will tighten up against those barbs, and that'll complete our power steering hose assembly installation.